Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week, we have KC in the blue corner, John Keys in the red corner, and
Whoa.
Wait, what?
I'm blue corner?
I like the color blue, actually. Can I be in the blue corner?
Okay, see, this look, I try to be creative, and now you guys want to pick colors.
Well, because the blue corner is the underdog.
Well, what is your fight record? I think it's 0 and you CM Punk has less loses than you do.
Less loses?
That's
I believe, the word you're looking for is losses.
He has less of those than you too.
Right there, folks. Baylor.
So I'm left-handed, and everybody knows that the blue side goes on the left side. So,
well, there you go.
I guess everybody knows it now because I didn't know that.
Oh. There will be comments after the show. Let's do this.
All right. Well, we are back. We took the week off for Memorial Day, and now we have returned. We got so many fights to talk about that I just want to go ahead and jump right into the official decision, because we got to talk about UFC Liverpool. We got to talk about Bellator 200, and then we got to come back and talk about UFC Utica, which took place in the state of New York, as we get ready for, I think, one of the biggest fights of the year. And I love it whenever every successive fight is the biggest fight of the year. That's when you know you're having a great year of fights.
Oh.
Amen.
All right, so let's get into it with the official decision. The official decision. This is the official decision. This is where we look at the fights that were. We've got so much ground to cover in a short period of time. So let's go right into UFC Liverpool. This was the first time the UFC had a fight, any type of fight, in the city of Liverpool, England. And so there was the Gorilla, number 8, Darren Till, facing off against Stephen, the Wonderboy Thompson, who was ranked number 1 at welterweight. This was an opportunity for us to see what was going to happen when those two very large 170 pounders got into the octagon together.
Yep. I think we put a little too much emphasis on the fact that, this is Till's home ground. Man, I'm struggling.
Yeah, you are.
That this was Till's home turf here, and this is going to be such a huge deal. I feel like that became less of the story versus his weight.
Well, and
he kind of.
Go ahead.
I was getting ready to say he did earn the nickname Gorilla this time, because he did come in kind of heavy. Kind of heavy. But
kind of heavy.
Once again, that should be something that we would talk about, because that is a big issue. That's a very big issue.
All right. So, first fight of the night, Darren Stewart defeated Eric Spicely via knockout in round 2. This earned him a performance of the night. He sure did. Claudio Silva defeated Nordine Talib via submission in round 1. He earned a Performance of the Night award, $50K contender. Marquand Amirkhani, a.k.a. Mr. Finland, defeated Jason Knight in the third. Well, it's not a third round. It's a third-round decision. So he won by decision. This was an interesting fight because I was surprised at how fast Amirkhani moved. That guy was really fast. He was landing all day, but Jason Knight was game, took a lot of that damage, and still came back, knocked Amirkhani down, and he had 2 knockdowns in that fight, but still came out on the losing end. Performance of the night winners, Arnold Allen, who defeated Mads Burnell. Arnold Allen, you might know him, KC, as Almighty Arnold Allen.
I refuse to acknowledge him as the Almighty.
He is the Almighty. The interesting thing about this fight is Mads Burnell, he is a grappler. He took Arnold Allen down multiple times. He had 6 takedowns in the fight. And then in the third round, he left his head just sitting in the wrong place. Arnold Allen reaches down, pulls up a guillotine, chokes him out. I mean, the fight was basically
limp.
Yeah, I mean, fight was basically Mads Burnell's to lose, and Allen pulls out the submission at the very end. What were you saying?
No, I just loved how he was game. Oh, he's out.
Yeah. It was like he was pumping, and it just dropped. It scared me to death to see him go out like that. I was like, dude, stop, you know. And,
he needs some
yeah. I mean, oh, yeah. We need that soundbite, by the way. We should get that soundbite. I'm petitioning.
Okay, we will work on that. In the co-main event, Neil Magny defeated Craig White via knockout in the first round. The crazy thing about this one is that Craig White was pushing Neil Magny up against the cage, trying to keep that rangy striker that Neil Magny is, you know, from being able to land his punches. But when you hold somebody up against the cage and you're trying to take them down, you have to watch out where your head is and where the other person's knee is. Neil Magny made the connection. And it was lights out for Craig White.
Where's your head at? Where's your head at?
Yeah, knee connected mouth said, okay, I quit, and everything shut down after that point.
It was all over. So. That was crazy. And then in the main event, Stephen Thompson was defeated by Darren Till via decision. This was a controversial decision. Darren Till came in. He's weighing 3 pounds over the limit, 3.5 pounds over the limit. You got to count that half pound.
I believe so.
And what this means is that weighing 3.5 pounds over the limit, Darren Till is now making people who weigh over the limit 7-0. They're undefeated now, 7-0.
There's no incentive to actually weigh in on target.
What do you think about that, John?
Not anymore. Well, there's a couple of things, because like before we even came out, I was watching a certain headline on MMA World where Dana White pretty much said they're cutting it out. They're going to stop doing it because it was working fine in the beginning. Now everybody's finding a way to kind of wait up to the last moment. They think that's becoming a problem. 3.5 pounds with Darren Till, that's scary. Mackenzie Dern, she came in heavy. I mean, they need to do better. And that was a definite advantage for Darren Till.
Well, they put some things in place on that. So, Ryan, what did you see on some of the rules they put in place to still make this fight happen?
So, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I thought was great that Stephen Thompson's team did was they put in certain requirements. First of all, Till must forfeit 30% of his purse and bonuses that would go to Thompson just for missing weight. But now Till couldn't weigh more than 188 pounds on the day of the fight. They had to weigh in at 1 p.m. Before going to the arena, and Wonderboy's team would be allowed to be there to observe the weigh-in. So this is the first time that I've heard that a team contingent upon fighting a fighter who missed weight put these types of requirements in so that the fighter doesn't get the full benefit. Like Darren Till wouldn't get the full benefit of rehydrating and getting back to his normal weight. He had to continue to stay dehydrated much longer than fighters who are cutting weight typically have to do.
Yeah, I think it was a good provision. It was the right thing to do. Probably a bit more of a distraction than anything, even for Wonder Boy's camp. But, I mean, the two were still able to go in there and put together a great performance. You got Till trying to mimic Steven's spinning elbows and kicks and clearly seeing it wasn't working. But I think altogether, man, they put together a good show. I don't necessarily believe that Till was the better man, but, hey, that's not for me to decide. So
John, did you have a chance to score this fight?
I did score the fight, and it was pretty much 3-2. I gave 3-2 to to Darren Till, and that 3 didn't happen until that knockdown that he did of Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah.
Okay?
So
because if you looked at that fight, if you turned your back to the fight and just heard the commentary, you couldn't tell who would really be winning. You literally had to see it, and it wasn't until Darren Till knocked Stephen Wonderboy down that I think that gave the edge. I mean, besides the whole Liverpool, he's our boy, we'll give him the edge anyway, like happens in Brazil sometimes, like, every fight. But that's regardless. But, it was a closely matched fight. It was very close. Neither person, other than the weight issue, neither fighter can walk away from that upset. They went in there, they gave it their all. Just Darren had to win.
Yeah, I also had it 3-2. It was very difficult to call. Interestingly enough, Wonderboy had it 4-1.
Wow.
Normally, we would look at him and go, "Are you crazy?" But given as close as the fights were, I could see how if you were in the ring, seeing what he saw, maybe he saw four rounds to 1. I had it 2-2 going into the last round. The knockdown won the fight for me as well. But Till, we're going to talk about this in a minute. Till should not get any type of title shot because he missed weight, and I think that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
Let's go. Let's go on to Bellator 200. It's funny. When the UFC hit their 200th show, it was a massive thing. I mean, it was was supposed to be a massive thing. We had supposed to have John Jones and Daniel Cormier, which it fell through. But Bellator 200 also had a fight that kind of fell through, which was Crow Cop and Roy Nelson. But they made up for it with the Gegard Mousasi and Rafael Caravallo. Which was the main event. It was for the middleweight championship for Bellator. Let's go through these results real fast. Phil Davis, Mr. Wonderful, former UFC fighter, defeated Linton Vassell via knockout. It was a head kick in round 3. Kate Jackson defeated Anastasia Yankova via unanimous decision. Mike Shipman defeated Carl Noon via TKO, strikes in round 1. Aaron Chalmers defeated Ash Griffiths via submission, a guillotine submission in round 1. And then the Bellator welcomed back Michael Venom Page, who fought Dave Rickles and beat him via verbal submission in round 2. KC, you're laughing.
Never seen anything like that. A guy's just like, nope, I'm done. But even better than that was, dude, Big John is not great on the mic. He's really not. So hearing the back and forth of the commentators, you got super excited guy, and then here's Big John. Well, you see what happens, and just listening to them, and like at one point, I forget who the other guy in the booth was who was saying like, it's like watching a real life video game, and it was like Paige puts on a show. That was solid stuff. Yeah.
So talk us through the verbal submission, John. You saw this guy Dave Rickles, who they were saying that this guy is game. He's a seasoned veteran. Couldn't land a punch. I mean, he could not touch Page.
I mean, have you ever? I mean, there's only been a few times that I've ever watched a fighter that answered that had an answer for anything the other fighter did. Venom Page had an answer for everything that the caveman tried to throw out there. And I watched highlights of the caveman fight. He is a good fighter. He is a great fighter. But against Michael Venom Page, you're looking at a black belt versus a white belt, literally. And at one point in the second round, they came out once again. Venom Page is doing his thing. And out of nowhere, he clocks him with was it an overhand or was it straight? I can't remember. But it was a beautiful
overhand that stunned him right before the bell.
Yeah, so the overhand that stunned him. And then when he came and he just sat there. And the caveman tried to go for him. And Venom just kind of brushed him off and just looked at him like, I have you now.
Yeah.
And it was the scariest thing to ever see a fighter just sit there and literally look at him like, what are you going to do now? Because at this point, it's my fight. Second round, he hits him. He cuts him, starts to bleed, and I don't think we can use the words that Michael Venom Page said, but pretty much says, "I have you, and you're done." Whether you like it, he just kept pointing at him, and the guy just submitted, verbally submitted. So hands down, I don't care what happens. I mean, it literally is going to have to be like a pro wrestling torture rack at this point that we're going to get submission of the year. Because that was submission of the year right there. I've never seen anybody get punched, talked to, and the guy's like, you know what, you're right. You're absolutely right. I can't fight anymore.
Acquiesce mid-fight.
In mid-stand. And I mean, everybody started booing, and then they realized what happened, and then they started cheering, and that's when we get the... Yeah, I mean, it was just like, and then the Infinity Gauntlet came out of nowhere, and, you know, the second coming of Anderson Silva. That's all I have to say.
So,
Michael Venom Page.
I think that it's an accurate. Very rarely, can someone actually make an analogy to Anderson Silva. He is just that good. But when I saw Michael Venom Page do what he did to David the Caveman Rickles, it was something out of the Anderson Silva playbook, especially when he fought Forrest Griffin, where Forrest Griffin was throwing everything he had at Anderson Silva, and Anderson knocked him out moving backwards, which is crazy.
I'm not quite ready to jump on the hype train and say that he's the second coming of Silva, because if you look at the difference maker in this fight was all about pacing and distancing. So Rickles was initially doing a great job of moving laterally and cutting off the cage, but as the fight wore on, he just took a couple bad steps, and Page was able to take advantage of that. So more so than just completely accurate striking, this came down to just great footwork. And so if there's someone out there who figures out the methodology to cut the ring off and control it, because Page got backed onto the fence a few times, I think if a fighter can take advantage of that and actually make him fight off the fence, it's a different outcome.
But Anderson Silva fought off the fence against what's his name? The guy that Forrest Griffin fought. The famous fight between. Why do I always come up with these when I can't remember the fights? Stephan Bonnar. There we go.
Oh, that's Stephan Bonnar. Okay.
Stephan Bonnar. So when Anderson Silva fought Stephan Bonnar, Anderson Silva put his back up against the cage and was like, "Come on, try to hit me." Yeah. And Bonnar looked like, looked like a white belt.
He did put on a clinic on that fight. I'll give you that. So but I'll say we'll just give it a little bit. Like, the dude is amazing. He's a great showman. Like, he's great for the Bellator promotion. I just I'm not ready to crown him yet, but I'm set my train.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do this right now, right here. I am on the Michael Venom Page hype train. I'm gonna call him Little Silva.
I'm there with it. Because he's 15-1 now, and I think the one that he got, it was like he was disqualified. The dude is probably one of the most devastating fighters I've ever watched. His striking is out of control. He has bullet time movement. You're right. He does need somebody to pressure him, but they say his ground game is just as good as his striking game. They say his ground game is where he relaxes, is what he does to relax. The guy's been in tournaments since he was 5 years old, I think they said. What more do you need this man to do except, jump from the
I like that.
Do you want to jump from the mat to the top of the ring in one jump? I mean, he probably could, but at this point, I'm just waiting to see what he's going to do next. So it's like he impresses me each and every time.
I'm looking up. Michael Venom Page is 13-0. He has not been 13-0. He has not been beaten. It's something that is crazy. Now, the last thing that I want to say before we move on, Michael Venom Page is on his last fight of his contract. He's got one fight left with Bellator. So, where does Michael Venom Page go? Well, first of all, Who do you have him fight? This guy has not fought for the title. He's 13-0. This fight was not even close. I mean, no one in Bellator right now is getting people to quit because they can't hit the other person. Do you give him a title shot? Do you bring Rory McDonald?
No, you still got to earn your way up.
Earn his way up from. I mean, he's there. He is right there. I mean, the smart play, the wise play is yes. You give him the title shot. The smart play is no, because I had to think about this because you did bring that up. Because if he becomes the champion, nobody's wanting to fight him. I guarantee nobody will fight him, and you'll never have a championship with him. So let him go around beating everybody that they throw against him, because that's pretty much what's going to happen. Anybody that comes against him, unless they're like a super guru ground fighter, they're going to get beat. Okay, they're going to have his speed, his reflexes, the same skill that he does striking. They're going to have on the ground.
I'm going to say it like this: if Michael Venom Page doesn't get a title shot, I would leave Bellator. I'm serious. I would go. No. I'd call up UFC, and he has been in Bellator since 2014. He's been there for 4 years. He's got
he took 2 years off. Well, a year off.
He took a year off, but he's got 8 consecutive fights in Bellator. All of them but one or finish it. No, 2. All of them but 2 were finishes.
My only point on this is, don't you think he could make a lot more money if it's a fight between him and Rory? Like if he takes a fight just before the Rory fight, like to help build up the mystique of what he can do, because people haven't seen much of other than this fight in a while. Like, give him a chance to build that brand just a little more.
Why? I don't understand that. He got a person to quit. His whole portfolio is just highlight films. Like you could just sell the fight with just his highlights. You gotta get
literally it's the cherry. I'm sorry to cut you off there, right? But that's him making a guy verbally submit mid-fight from one punch is literally the highlight of anybody. Nobody has ever done that. Okay.
Well, I did that to KC, but not anybody professional. Last fight.
Wait.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Oh wow!
I love the delay. Like he had to think about that one for a moment.
I'm like, wait a second. I'm KC.
We got to get to the main event. The main event was Gegard Mousasi, who defeated Rafael Caravalho via knockout in round 1. This was for the middleweight title. The only reason why I brought up the Michael Venom Page versus Rory McDonald is because, according to Ariel Helwani, Bellator president Scott Coker told him that he is open to booking Rory McDonald versus Gegard Mousasi next. So this is why I have a problem, because Rory McDonald recently won the Bellator welterweight championship from Douglas Lima, and it was a close fight. Mm-hmm. Gegard Mousasi wins the middleweight championship, and they're already setting up a super fight. When you've got Michael Venom Page with one fight left in his career, and his whole not his career in his contract.
Yeah,
his whole everything is highlight film after highlight film, and you're going to set up some super fight with 2 fighters who have not defended their titles yet? Come on, Bellator. What are you thinking?
Yeah, they're scared for Rory. That's what they're thinking. Rory.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll call him the Red King after that for real, because his face will be a bloody mess, okay? I would be scared that my champion, my newly crowned champ, is coming up against Venom Page. I mean, no, not yet. I mean, granted, you're right. They should not be trying to do a dream fight right now. No, they cannot do that. But at the same time, you don't want your newly crowned, the guy that you just paid a whole lot of money for, get knocked out and just by miss the highlight reel, and get a pokeball thrown at him. You don't want that to happen. That's embarrassing. Okay,
All right.
So
well,
I smart play. Smart play.
I think it's terrible. If I was Michael Venom Page, I'd say, I'm going to fight whoever you want me to fight. I'm going to knock him out, and then I'm going to UFC. Because the UFC would take him and put him on a massive stage. A massive stage. All right, UFC. Speaking of UFC Fight Night 131, that was in Utica, New York at the Adirondack Bank Center. We had 6 fights on the card. We're going to run through these very quickly because we got to get to finding the angles, y'all. We're halfway through the show, and we ain't even went through the titles yet, through the headlines yet. All right. Sam Alvey defeated Gian Villante via split decision. Sam Alvey, this guy used to fight at like welterweight. He was fighting at light heavyweight. Guy looked completely different with all that weight on him.
I like that. I think he's fighting at a more natural weight. He's happier. He's looking good. I support it. Julio
Arce defeated Daniel Tamer via submission, rear naked choke in round 3. Ben Saunders, who we haven't seen that guy in forever, knocked out Jake Ellenberger. First round devastating lightning bolt from his fist was crazy. Or was it from his knee? It was from a body part. Walt Harris defeated Daniel Spitz via second round knockout. It was one of those, he hit him and like Spitz was like, wait, did I eat breakfast this morning? And then the fight was over. Gregor Gillespie defeated Vic Pinkel via submission. It was an arm triangle choke. And then Marlon Moraes defeated Jimmy Rivera via first round head kick destruction to win the main event of the evening. The head kick sounded like a slap.
They were comparing it to a baseball crack, actually. A guy hit a home run, and they were comparing the sound, and it's very similar. And I felt bad about the dude getting hit in the head that hard. But you know what? That's what you get in the ring for. It is what it is.
There you go. All right, let's get into finding the angles, the headlines that are making waves since we've been gone. That's a Kelly Clarkson reference.
Since you've been gone.
I saw what you did. I saw what you did.
Finding the angles. This is Finding the Angles. This is where we look at the headlines making waves in the wake of the events that took place last weekend and the weekend before. We're going to go back to the UFC Liverpool just for a little bit. Darren Till jumps to number 2 at welterweight. Dude missed weight, lost 30% of his purse, ranked number 2 now. I say it's worth it.
Worth it, but it's a clear sign that the ranking system is broken and means nothing.
Feels like to me that they're trying to get rid of Tyron Woodley.
Yep.
Well,
that's all it feels like to me.
He jumped up to from number 8 to number 2. The crazy thing is Kamaru Usman, who was ranked higher, like number 7, only went up to like number 6 after beating Damian Maia. Interestingly enough, in the backstage after the fight, Darren Till called out Kamaru Usman when he was talking to Megan Olivi. He said, "I'd like Kamaru Usman. I want Usman." He said, Jorge Masvidal. He doesn't want to say the winner of Colby Covington or Rafael Dos Anjos. He said he feels like the winner of that fight should fight Tyron Woodley. But he just beat number 1, and he wants to beat all the other guys. So he's saying everyone goes on about Usman. He says he's not scared of him. Usman's definitely not scared of him. So he thinks that he should fight either Usman or Jorge Masvidal.
I think it was all just to have that false humility of like, look, I recognize I messed up, so this will be my punishment, knowing good and well that none of this matters, and they're going to make the fight that shows the most money, which isn't him versus Usman.
Well, yeah, Usman has trouble because a wrestling first style just isn't very entertaining, and for casual fans, they just don't want to see it. But my question for you, John, is should missing weight for a contender's bout disqualify a fighter for the next title shot? This was a question posed by MMA Junkie online. I think it's worth hearing your opinion on that.
Absolutely, they should be punished for that. Being a fighter is one thing about, one aspect about fighting is not only going there and performing and putting on your very best for your opponent, but it's also showing respect and discipline by coming in there underweight as you're required to do. To come in there overweight, for any reason. I mean, unless barring serious physical injury, you should not have done that. You should not, not only should his purse have been forfeit, but any results of the fight that, if he comes out as a winner, it should not affect the rankings whatsoever. Okay, it shouldn't. If his opponent who did have the discipline and the focus to come in underweight, if he should lose, his ranking should not go down. Okay, this is a travesty, and like I said, it smacks of favoritism because Darren Till's the hot one right now. He's the fox, I guess is what they would call him. So no, I think he should have been punished, and forfeiture, non-movement of ranking. That would have been the least of.
Okay, all right, all right. You're passionate about this one.
Sorry.
You're passionate. So you'd mentioned that Dana White is talking about changing the early weigh-in. So they used to weigh in on later on Friday before the fights, and then they moved it to early on Friday before the fights. I think that they moved it even earlier to like Thursday, and then Friday was just the ceremonial weigh-in. So I think that they started on Thursday. Interestingly enough, I was there. I think they started this at UFC Ottawa, and I was actually in Ottawa. Huh?
Humble brag.
So I was. I think the first time that they did the early weigh-ins, I was there at UFC Ottawa, and I just happened to be staying in the hotel where the fighters were. But what they said was so this was on MMA Junkie. One of the writers there compared the people who weighed too much or who missed weight in the old system versus the new system. There were 83 fights in the old system, 83 events with 950 fights. 32 fighters missed weight. There in the new system, there were 82 events with 962 fights. Almost double missed weight. The key here is the new system has had more incidents of fighters missing weight than the old one. So, KC, your reaction, is the new weigh-in system bad for the sport? Should they go back to the old one?
Nope. The new weigh-in system is the right way because it doesn't allow you to cheat it so much. And instead of making the rules so that it's easier to make weight, perhaps they should just have their fighters fight at a weight that's more natural.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is in the next show we should talk about how we can make weigh-ins. We've already solved the ladder issue. We solved the late fight replacement issue. We need to solve the weigh-ins issue on Combat Sports Talk. So let's cue that up. One of the things that was interesting is of the 27 fighters who missed weight but still entered the octagon in the old system, they had a record of 12 wins with 15 losses. Of the 47 fighters who made weight or who missed weight but still fought, they have a record of 27-20, 7-0 in 2018. John, it seems like the old system was favored the person who made weight. Seems like the new system favors the person who misses weight. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the data doesn't lie. I think it. While I would like to think that the new way is more beneficial for the fighter, I think in a way that the old way keeps them in line. It keeps them somewhat disciplined to make this weight. Or, like I said, we might have to come up with a system where they are able to come in at a more natural weight at some point, because this is ridiculous. I mean, I do not like the fact that they're starving themselves to get the advantage of being in a lighter weight, and then have to force rehydrate themselves, within 12, 24 hours of the fight. That's dangerous. It's not healthy whatsoever, and it needs to change. it seriously needs a look at.
All right, I'm going to finish this off with a quote from Big John McCarthy. He said, "People are missing the point of early weigh-ins. It has nothing to do with making it easy for you to make weight. There's nothing that makes it easier. It was moved so the athlete has more time to rehydrate because a hydrated fighter is safer than a dehydrated fighter." So to your point, John, that ultimately having more time to hydrate after the weight cut is better than potentially, according to John McCarthy. I actually am interested on both of your points. I think you both have valid points. Is more time for rehydration because they do not have the ability to have a what's it called when you
An IV.
An IV. They don't have the ability to have an IV anymore, and so therefore more time to hydrate is important if you want to see someone be able to fight on fight night and have the best fight that you have available. Let's go on. Coach Kavanaugh. Coach Kavanaugh is the coach for Conor McGregor.
Oh boy.
Coach Kavanaugh's solution to this is changing the system and having weight classes every 5 pounds. So right now, I think there's like 7 or 8 weight classes. One for the men. It's different for the women. But for the men, it's 120, 135, 145, 155, 170, 185, 205, and then heavyweight, which goes up to a maximum of 265 pounds. So that's 8 weight classes. Kavanaugh's recommendation would be that we would start, I'm assuming, at 120 and go up weight classes. Go up a weight class, everything up to 205, which I think that is ridiculous.
Agreed.
Very agreed. That sounds like boxing for to the uneducated. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. It's just boxing.
Yeah, and then what you have is, you've got effectively double and almost triple the number of champions now, and you just don't have enough fighters. So you're going to have fighters who are multiple weight champions, and they're going to still continue to cut to try to get that, to get to that last weight class where they might have an advantage. I don't think that this solves a problem at all. Now,
nope.
Some people have referenced the need for a 165 pound weight class. So there's a big jump between 155 and 170, just like there's one between 170 and 185. So the recommendation is to put a 165 there, possibly getting rid of 170. Anybody taking that? Do you think that they should lower the weight there to 165, or do you think that 165 is unnecessary? I'll go first with KC.
I'm going completely unnecessary because, again, it's not solving any problems with, like, the same guys who are fighting in these divisions are gonna, like, the 170. It's just gonna be a harder cut to get to 165. These guys at 170 aren't gonna move up because of this. I don't think it helps anything. You're not adding value to your promotion by creating this weight class, other than you get a new belt for Conor.
Maybe he'll defend it.
Ooh.
Good luck.
Yeah. So here we go. Dana White responds to Chuck Liddell's announcement of comeback. So we talked about that Chuck Liddell was coming out of retirement to go in one more fight. Liddell versus Ortiz 3. And so, Dana White is the one who basically retired Chuck Liddell, told him basically, if you do not retire, I will have to cut you from the UFC, because the knockouts were just getting more brutal and more frequent for Chuck Liddell. Him coming back is just a crazy thing for me. He's been gone for like 10 years. But he's working with Oscar De La Hoya to fight Tito Ortiz as part of the promotion Golden Boy MMA. So, first of all, John, I'm going to go to you. I know you've been looking for your veterans division. This would be the crown jewel.
Let's see here. So, in my master division, that'll be Chuck Liddell, Dan Severn, Horace Gracie, Ken Shamrock, all juiced up, because, they probably have to be resuscitated before they get to the ring. It works. It works. If they want to fight, if these old men want to fight, let them fight. Just put it on exhibition rules. Give them 2 rounds, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 rounds. Just let them go for it. Because it's like this. Either they fight in the ring, where it's kind of, when it's regulated, or they'll find some place that's not regulated, and it could get really dangerous. So if they're game, let them get in the ring. Put them on the exhibition rules. Call it the Masters Division.
KC, Chuck Liddell's 48 years old. Tito Ortiz is 43 years old.
The whole thing is trash. I mean, there's got to be an upper limit to this. Like, one of the reasons I like MMA is because it's a little easier for me to relate to the athletes. They're around my age, and that mid-30s, you can still be effective. These guys in their 40s, it's a rarity that they can still be effective. And the reality is there's nothing to prove. There's literally no upside to this match. Like, all right, so you won. No one cares. Go back to your family. I don't see any value in this fight happening other than pride for these two fighters.
And that's the best part, that it's pride. Because why else is a fighter going to fight in the old school fighters, mind you? Now, the newer generation, I'll say, we'll make the cutoff at, let's say, Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffiths, because those really were the modern age of fighters. So let's go pre-fighters there. Those guys weren't making much money, but they had a lot of pride. Okay,
that's true.
Those guys right there, they put it on the line for machismo. So I appreciate those old ones.
Would you watch them fight at 60 years old?
Not only would I let them fight at 60 years old, and I would watch it, I would go back to original old school UFC 1 rules, put just some minimum straps around their knuckles, and let them go. Because just for the simple fact that these old masters, and, even though I've never been formally trained except in the military, I've heard too many stories about senseis going to their dojos and literally battling it out. And these guys are old. All right. Yeah. So with that said, this is going to happen. This happens all the time. This happened, the Gracie Challenge, where they would they would go up there, they close the doors and just let it happen. Why not let it happen in the ring? These old guys want to fight. They got some more. They got some more stank in them. Let them go in there. Let Randy Couture. How old is he? He's like 75 years old. He probably still whoop up on some people. Your Al Romero, he's getting old.
Based on this, because Ryan will give us the line that he's too old for this. So you've heard it here. I'm officially calling out Ryan Troubadour Smith.
Okay, first of all, Randy Couture is 54 years old. KC, I already established last time we fought, I had you verbally submit like Michael Venom Page. So I don't feel like there's a tape on it. I got a little bit of Maury Povich recorded on that one part where you tap verbally, but
and the tape has determined that was a lie.
Yeah.
So the only thing I want to say about this is that, we've seen Grudge Match. That was that Robert De Niro.
Oh yeah.
We've seen that movie before. It was the final fight between Hoist Gracie and Ken Shamrock. Hoist Gracie, 50-something years old. Ken Shamrock, like 3 years older than Hoist Gracie. Hoist didn't even wrap his hands. Like this fight. I'm sorry, but there is an upper limit to the effectiveness of a fighter. It's a young man's sport, and at an age where I'm gonna let KC talk trash because I don't want any of that. I'm over. I'm done. I mean,
you don't want this problem, man.
No.
See, that's that pride part. These guys, like, they're gonna do it. There's so much machismo and pride. Like, I still got one more fight for this guy, and and they don't want to retire
Dude, they
with
need
that.
hugs,
That is why the promotion retires the fighter. That is why they cut the fighter. That Oscar De La Hoya to try. I mean, as much as I make fun of the red-crested stepchild that is Bellator and how they bring washed out UFC fighters, Roy McDonald and Gegard Mousasi notwithstanding, to fight smacks of desperation. But what you're talking about now is you've got a promotion trying to make a name in MMA, and you're taking two fighters whose days have long since passed. I mean, Tito Ortiz's last fight was one that was, he was making excuses before they even announced the decision. Okay, so this is desperation on top of desperation, trying to jumpstart something, and there should be no play. Like, John, I think you're the only person on the planet besides Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz who want to see this fight actually happen.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what's going to end up happening? I'm going to put this on Twitter. I'm going to put this on IG, and I need to hear from my people.
Okay.
I need to hear to say that I need a polling. I need a polling to say,
you need to
do
poll.
you want to see a Masters decision?
Okay. Right now, I'm giving you the cheese award because the cheese stands alone. You are by yourself.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm giving you the cheese because that was super cheesy.
Listen, see in podcasting terms, KC, that is a callback to last week where we were doing nursery rhymes. It's the farmer in the dell. See, this is upper level thinking right here.
Come on.
This is upper level thinking. I just hit you with farmer in the dell. All right?
I just hit you with Adele, so hello from the other side.
What kind of laptop are you on right now, KC?
Oh, well played.
See? Thank you. Now, Michael Bisping, 39 years old. He retired. He finally retired. This man, who should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, not that is a thing in the UFC because, a place that allows Matt Serra to become a Hall of Famer should
have the belt. So respect his authority.
Michael Bisping has more fights and more wins than anybody else in the UFC, and he's a champion. And I'm talking, when I say more fights, I mean more fights in the UFC, not more fights as a record, but more fights, more wins, and he's a champion. I mean, he was an Ultimate Fighter winner. He was in UFC 100, where he got knocked out by Dan Henderson and elbowed in the face. But, he has had a career, behind the desk. I mean, Michael Bisping, when you talk about someone whose career has gone across the entire gamut of emotions and experiences and has done literally everything you can do in the sport, that's a Hall of Famer. That's a Hall of Famer.
Aw.
I know. There's some bromance going on here.
Now,
right?
I am not a big Michael Bisping fan, but I got to respect the man. He's retired, and he's done tremendous.
All kidding aside, you're right. You're right. I mean, if you really think about it, he started off in the Ultimate Fighter. He stayed loyal to the promotion all the way through from beginning to end. He took the fights that nobody wanted to take. He took the KOs that are legendary, H-bomb, and, the Patch Retina. And, it's just like, he gave it literally, he was almost going blind for this promotion, okay? And he was still willing to stay in there, except he finally said, I had enough.
Well, no, what he said his other eye started messing up. And so, his good eye was messing up. He was literally going blind, and it was like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to make this happen. But I say this, when you look back at someone who has been so close to the title shot, I remember when he fought Vitor Belfort and got head kicked. Dude was one fight away from a title. and got head kicked, and that sent him spiraling back down. And watching people like Chris Weidman, who I know is a favorite of yours, John, and other fighters get those title shots, win the belt, and he had to sit on the sideline. But when you talk about resilience, and you talk about someone who came back and finally made good on his title shot with the knockout of Luke Rockhold, which I didn't have him picked. I thought Luke Rockhold was going to embarrass Michael Bisping. And what ended up happening was Bisping rocked him, took advantage, and then promptly gave his belt to George St. Pierre, which is also historic. See, this is the backhanded compliment there.
Wow. This is what happens when we take a break. Goodness.
That's right. I got a lot to say. Nick Diaz, dude got off of suspension, finally coming back ready to fight, and decides he's allegedly going to fight a woman, his wife, or his girlfriend. He was arrested for alleged domestic violence. Apparently in the notes here on the run sheet, it says allegedly it was his stalker. I don't know who wrote that.
It may have been me. There were a couple different stories. So
hit us on the stories, Casey.
I don't believe I want to.
Okay.
Let's just leave it as the Diaz brothers can probably just go away for a while.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Oh, whoa! We can't do that, man.
I mean, are their fights even that exciting that we should care? I mean, are they really? I mean, they had their time. It was cool, but they're not even active fighters anymore.
I say that we should dedicate at least 60 seconds to them. Okay, at least 60. That's fair enough because they have put on the fights. Okay, even though they have their shenanigans. And, we've all had that crazy ex-girlfriend, okay? We've all had that one crazy ex-girlfriend that just showed up at the house with a chocolate chip cake, asking you which slice is yours, okay? We've all had that one, okay?
So let's say this, before we go too far in that, I have had the crazy girl show up at my door at 4 a.m., but my response was not to hit her. My response was to allow my large dog to keep a distance between myself and her, and to make sure I bolted the door and left this situation.
So here's the deal.
I feel there's ways to handle that.
Here's the deal. According to the report, and this was obtained by MMA Fighting, Diaz and his accuser apparently got into a verbal argument after she learned that he was in a relationship, an intimate relationship, with one of her friends. She threw a glass of water at him, and that is akin to a referee saying, "Let's get it on, let's fight," because he quickly grabbed her, took her down via a body slam, and using illegal strikes, hitting her head against the floor. Then he went for a submission choke and tried to. No, I'm for the purposes of the podcast.
What kind of writing was going on?
For the purposes of the podcast, I'm embellishing a little bit. Okay, let me play it straight.
You were making light of a very serious situation.
Okay, it's all alleged, so it may not have happened.
True.
Yeah.
According to the report, they got into a verbal argument. She accused him of having a relationship with one of her friends. She threw water on him. He grabbed her by the head, slammed her to the ground, and started hitting her head against the floor. This fight moved outside of the residence. She claims Diaz choked her and tried to throw her into a swimming pool, causing her to fall and injure her hip on the corner of the pool. They said that she was visibly in a large amount of pain and could not walk when officers arrived. So the police report notes that Diaz showed no signs of injury, and the alleged victim's injuries appeared severe. So he was deemed as the primary physical aggressor. So there you have it. While it's you're innocent and until proven guilty, I don't think that it looks too good for him based upon what's in the police report.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't mean an end to his career because the UFC has Greg Hardy fighting in the Contender Series.
Well, this is true, and the Contender Series is on June 12th, so you get to see him fight along with our fan, shows a fan of Nick Newell.
Oh, I was like, which one of us is fighting? I'm out.
No, I was like, wait a minute, really?
Nick Newell. We were all pulling for Nick Newell to get a shot at the UFC. He also fights on the June 12th episode of the Contender. So it's out there for you, Nick Newell. We are still rooting for you, my friend. All right, let's go with this one. Rose Thug No Hair Nama Yunus offers to give Joanna Jędrzejczyk try number 3 in a rematch. There's one condition. John, do you know what that condition is?
What is that condition, sir?
KC, do you know what that condition is?
Joanna has to shave her head.
No, thankfully not. Rose Namajunas said...
She might have a smooth head.
Oh, man.
She's got a lumpy head.
She's got a lumpy head, dude. You can look at Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Beautiful woman. Got
some knots of nuts.
But you could tell Joanna Jędrzejczyk has a lumpy head.
It was a weird.
So Rose Namajunas said that she will give Joanna Jędrzejczyk a third shot if
no trap talk.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk says that Rose Namajunas is the best publicly.
Woo!
I like that.
Well, that's a fight we'll never see ever. Ever.
Yeah.
I would say you're the best just for a chance to fight you. Heck yeah.
So who's the best, Casey?
John's the best.
No. You call me out. You call me out. Wait, no. He's saying, John, he's saying you're the best because he wants to fight you.
Well,
we got instigator over here.
Hey, if you love your mother, put your hand on mine. Quickest way to start a fight in elementary school.
I think I give Casey 30 seconds. I mean, I give him the best 30 seconds of my life. Or, he probably pick me up and bounce me like a basketball. I'll try anything once,
So
30 seconds, man.
I'm in everybody's weight class right now, so we're all good.
Yeah, that's right. You're on my weight class. I am a super heavyweight. Here we go. I want to take this moment, guys. I want to take this moment to say, I'm sorry. Y'all were right. I was wrong. About what, you ask? Yair Rodriguez and Zabit Magomedsharipov are back on.
Oh, yeah.
UFC 228. The fight is signed. Yair Rodriguez is fighting Zabit Magomedsharipov. They are going to make it happen. So that means Yair Rodriguez is not out of the UFC. You both called it. You both said that he was going to come back. He was going to be in the UFC. The UFC was not going to let him go, and you were correct. So therefore, I tip my hat to you, but I'm not wearing a hat. So there you go.
Large melon. So I have one caveat here, and I think it's the inconsistencies that Dana White keeps getting trapped in is he makes these statements about these fighters are done, and I can't believe their attitudes. And right after he announces that that's a real thing, he talks about Al Iaquinta and his new deal and saying that, hey, if you guys want to pick and choose fights, then the UFC is not the place for you. Even though it was under his regime that became a thing. Like the whole call out after fights and saying, hey, I want to set up this match and this match. Like, he has created the very environment that is now destroying the organization. So, it's less of being able to predict it and just knowing that, all right, half the time Dana White's just going to go back on his word because he realized he's painted himself into a corner.
Hey, did you read the headline that Paul Daly is potentially coming back to the UFC?
Really?
The guy that Dana White said he would never let back into the UFC after he threw a late punch at Josh Koscheck. Simplex might be coming back to is it Simplex or Simtex? I think it's Simtex.
Simtex.
I was like,
like the
Simplex,
explosive.
isn't that what you have?
No, Simplex is one-sided printing.
Oh.
Good one. Good one. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
Yeah. And that one is that one right there is for John Vanderland. Who still gives me crap about the about Ameliorate. To this day, dude still talks about Ameliorate. There you go, Simplex, one-sided printing. Let's go to. I got two more stories, and then we're gonna get into the fight card because it's a huge fight card, and we haven't talked about the current villain of the day, which is Colby Covington. Number one, ESPN outbids Fox for UFC rights. They are a 5-year deal worth $300 million per year. That's $1.5 billion. And how much, John, are the fighters going to see of that?
Probably, maybe none.
Yep, that's what I was thinking.
I don't think so. Absolutely not. They need to go. The UFC is trying to get back to the black. Fighters be damned.
Yeah. KC, do you remember when Dana White said that he didn't care that ESPN never showed the UFC and that he talked all this crap about ESPN, and now they are in bed together? It is the most bizarre thing. But given our last story, it's kind of par for the course, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the Dana White thing where it's you can't really trust his initial word because he's very reactionary to things, and I don't know. I just like the sad part is the fighters aren't going to make money off of this, and but this is like Colby Covington said in your next story. It's all about making the UFC great again, man.
Oh, brother.
Well,
speaking of that, we have to take a short detour before we make the UFC great again. We've got to take a short detour over to the alt-right, and that is Angela KGB Lee's husband, who on a vacation had his bare arm showing, revealing Nazi tattoos on his arms. People who saw that on social media began to cry foul, accuse him of being a racist. This went south fast because KGB Lee felt like she needed to defend her husband. He responded by saying that the tattoos were from his time in prison, that he couldn't cover them up or with the tattoo or remove it. The cover-ups would make him look like a redneck, is what he said. The removing the tattoo would not be a thing that he was able to do. And so she defended her husband, saying that they are not racist because they have a black person and an Asian person living with them, and basically accused the social media people of being sensitive. I think the quote is mofos. So what are your? I'm going to give you each a chance to react to this. KC, I'll let you go first. What's your reaction to all of this?
Oh. John's up first.
All right, John, you go first.
Okay, John's up first. All right, so, quick college story. When I was in college, I had two white friends. Okay, more than two, but these two in particular. One was a tattoo artist. The other one happened to be the son of a very KKK person, and I'm not going to say names because the son of the KKK, the Klansman, was a really good dude. Okay, we always had good debates, everything like that. However, we couldn't be roommates because they were trying to make us roommates, and he politely said, "I cannot be, roommate with him because my dad lives in North Carolina. He's a Klansman. He will kill John," and which I appreciate that because I like life. Now, my other friend, okay, the tattoo artist, he told me a lot about being a tattoo artist. He said that you can cover up tattoos and still make them look tasteful. I saw those tattoos, and out of all the tattoos I've ever seen, if you couldn't cover those tattoos up, that's a choice. You choose not to do that. So yes, he is a racist, and let this be said, and everybody who knows me knows I say this all the time when people say I have so many friends of a certain ethnicity. If you can count how many friends you have of a certain ethnicity, you just might be racist. Okay, just throwing it out there. Okay, I have black friends, I have white friends, I have Mexicans, I have Venezuelans, Guatemalan, Asians, Koreans, Asian being Korean, and Filipino. I did have 2 Japanese friends, but I'm not racist. Japanese, racist, probably. Sorry, guys. But I mean, with that being said, if you have to count it, you probably really need to evaluate. Seriously.
KC.
That's all I have to say.
So my thing is on these tattoos weren't jail tattoos. This is prison. So some choices were made leading up to this about where your alliances are. Now, that's kind of a big deal. Like, a choice was made, and I understand like there's protection and whatnot that you gotta consider, but that's who you chose to be. Now, whatever reason he gives for not being able to cover it up, the only actual, because I've got some bad tattoos that have been covered up, but the only reason that you could give for, hey, I'm not racist, but I'm not covering up this tattoo, is because you are afraid of the blowback from the group in which you've made your alliance with, being the neo-Nazis. Like, and that's not something you can really snitch on, be like, look, guys, if I get this removed, people are going to come for me. Like, I mean, in some messed up way, I'm not defending it, but if that was the case, that would make sense. I'm not saying it is, but that is the only scenario in which I could come up with in my head where you can't get that tattoo covered up or removed, because it's not a huge tattoo and it's part of a larger piece. And I guarantee you there are artists out there, especially because it's mostly in black ink, like, that's an easy cover up.
Mm-hmm.
There you have it, guys.
So what you're saying is, Casey, that you're saying that it's not right, but you understand.
No. I'm saying if his life is in danger, then I'm okay with him not, like, personally, it's not going to affect me. But if his life is in danger, then yeah, don't get that removed. Like, live. Please live.
I mean, I would rather him just come out and say that, and I guarantee that would squash all the beef that when the internet tried to come for him.
But at the end of the day, as long as his wife, as long as KGB doesn't lose her spot on the roster, if she doesn't lose sponsors, which she doesn't have a lot of, it's no big deal. But if you think about it, her alignment with KGB is problematic in and of itself. But that's a whole nother thing.
But interestingly enough, I think that her husband is the one who gave her that nickname.
Yep.
But it has to do with the fact that he thought that she looked Russian, and so KGB became the nickname that she got. I think that of all this is the most innocuous part of the story. Her nickname, the best nicknames you don't make up yourself. I mean, the Bermudas Triangle, some of the other Mr. Finland, those are names that people pick themselves. I think I would more than happy take someone giving me KGB. Those are the best nicknames.
I don't know. Either way, but that's me. Let me go back and clarify. So I'm not saying that I understand or I support it, but I am saying if this man's life is in danger, which it very well could be given the prison relationships, this is not that, like, of all the hills to die on, this is not one of them.
All right.
Fair enough. I can respect that.
Let's close this one out and go right into the fight call. All right, this is the fight card. This is where we talk about the fights that are coming up this week. There is one fight card that is sucking up all the air in the MMA world, and that is UFC 225, taking place in Chicago, Illinois, at the United Center. That is the place where Michael Jordan won 6 NBA championships. Read them, LeBron James. Sorry. the greatest
Oh,
basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. This was his house, the house that Jordan built. This is where this fight is gonna be.
Yep.
Why y'all moaning?
Because, like, you can't disrespect that man, LeBron, like that.
Exactly. That man takes nobody's teams and takes them to the championships. Okay, you got to get the man by himself. It's the LeBron James and everybody else squad.
Well, he definitely takes a weak team to the championship. He just don't win them. That's all. Michael Jordan wins them. All right. So
speaking of famous Michaels.
Yeah, speaking of famous Michaels, the first fight of the night on the main card, we talked about the travesty of the fact that Alistair Overeem and Curtis Blades got pushed to the FS1 prelims in order for CM Punk and Mike, the Truth Jackson. By the way, Mike is short for Michael, so CM Punk is fighting Michael Jackson. If he doesn't win this fight, there is something seriously wrong with this man. He's been a professional wrestler a little bit too long.
You can't beat the king of pop. Come on now.
I know, man.
So, well, let's look at the king of pop stats. He's 74 inches tall, so that means, he's 6'2". Weighs 170 pounds. His reach is 0 inches. This is on UFC.com. His leg reach is 0 inches. If the guy has no reach and no legs, and you can't beat him, come on, CM Punk. This is your chance.
Are you saying he should just run for a clothesline from the get-go? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, the WWE cannot script this fight better than this right here. CM Punk, you've been training for 2 years, and you're fighting a guy that has no legs and no arms. You got to win this fight, man.
I believe in you.
Just saying.
Hey, the O has got to go. That's all I got to say about this fight.
Yeah,
the O has got to go.
Dana White said if CM Punk does not win this, his experiment with the UFC is over. This is a win or go home type of situation. I don't mean to hype this up like it's WWE, but that's what it is. It's loser go home. CM Punk versus Shimon Michael Jackson. Without arms, without legs.
I wonder if he's going to come out with the red zipper jacket.
Oh, dude.
Oh, yes.
The red zipper jacket, because that's the Beat It jacket. But I'm saying you got to come out with the red jacket with the black V stripe, because that's the Thriller jacket. And that means...
And what if he does the Thriller dance on the way in?
You guys are too into this right now.
I'm just saying, you come with the Thriller jacket, he could turn into the werewolf cat thing.
Exactly. And what if he has the contacts? He just comes to the ring with the with the neon go. It's over, man. It's over. I would stop fighting. I'd tap right there before Buffer was done. I'd be on the ground tapping. Okay?
Yeah. And then finally, you have someone who could outdo Michael Venom Page.
That might bring Michael Venom Page to the UFC for that.
There you go. There you go. In the other fight of the night, Andre the Pitbull Arlovsky is fighting Tuivasa. You got Holly Holm. Holly Holm is back, the preacher's daughter, versus Megan Anderson.
Reach me was the daughter of a preacher man. She was
Megan Anderson.
Dude, I can't believe that Megan Anderson is still a noob Sabot on the site.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised at that. She is the featherweight champion over at Invicta. With the relationship that Invicta and the UFC have, you would think that Megan Anderson would be able to have a photo. Dude, she is the featherweight champion. She is the Chris Cyborg of Invicta.
Well,
she could be camera shy. You never know.
Oh no, she's been all over press right now. They can't get enough pictures of her. Like, those tattoos get a lot of coverage.
All right,
I saw what you did.
In the co-main event, I'm gonna move on from there. In the co-main event, Rafael dos Anjos faces off against Colby Chaos Covington.
Rafi dos Nachos.
Against the American Wankster? Yeah, really?
Oh man, Colby Covington is a caricature that just wears me out. I just cannot deal with him and this whole, like, doesn't he know that nerd is now a term, it's a cool term? Like, back in the 50s, nerd was an insult. Now, to be a nerd is not an insult anymore. So he's like, yeah, this is a nerd-free zone. Yes, because nerds are smart and you are an idiot. No one wants to hang around you.
The dude is functionally illiterate. Like, legitimately, I've seen his snaps, and he's trying to read off of a script, and it's just not working. Like, the guy struggles to form sentences.
Okay, so who's a better reader, Colby Covington or Floyd Mayweather?
Ooh,
that's the question.
Got him.
Who can read the page of Harry Potter is what you're asking. Okay.
Got him.
Wow.
So you remember that part in Deadpool when he cuts his hand off and he's got the little baby hand?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Colby Covington has two of those. Dude is the most unproportioned person I've ever seen. Two baby hands.
That makes sense, though.
I don't want to put a ton
of
love into this because best case scenario, RDA wins and Colby just acts like, oh no, it's because he'll come up with some excuse. Like, the guy's not a graceful loser, it wouldn't seem like. If Colby wins, it's going to be nonstop media coverage and we're going to, I don't know. I'm already whipped by it and it hasn't happened.
In all seriousness, the best thing for the UFC, given how it's sold, is the fact that Colby Covington wins this fight. Because now Colby Covington obtains an interim title. You've got Tyron Woodley, who is the champion, coming off of an injury into the octagon to face off against Colby Covington, one of the most disliked fighters in the welterweight division. And the thing that I'm shaking about and just nervous about is the types of things that Colby Covington has said about the Brazilian people and his use of the term filthy animals to describe them. I shudder to think about how he's going to try to promo talk his way with a Tyron Woodley fight when he has the propensity to call the Brazilian people filthy animals. I fear for what Colby Covington may say in a fight versus Tyron Woodley. For all that's good, RDA has to win this fight.
Yeah, for the sake
I don't think Colby's that dumb. Yeah, I don't think Colby's that dumb. I mean, he's called Tyron Tyquill, and we'll leave it at, and I think he'll leave it at that. I think that's the strongest thing that he'll ever call him, because if he even acts like you want to pretend like you want to think about saying something other than that, I remember back in the World Cup back in the 90s that a guy got shanked for kicking into the wrong goal. I could see that happening to Covington at any time.
Well, Rafael doesn't.
Covington right now is he's kind of fully bought into his own hype, and if you hear his rhetoric continues to ramp up, and now he's overly. Like, I kind of don't care about his politics because I'm there to watch him fight. But he's basically repeating Trump lines. And so what this means to me is, like, the rhetoric that he uses to become more and more divisive, there's no calming it down. Like, I think with the Tyron Woodley, this only gets worse.
So if RDA wins this fight, the other person that could cause problems in this arena is Kamaru Usman coming up at number 6. So Colby Covington becomes a fighter who's on the table for Kamaru Usman to fight, and you could potentially see it there because from the big press conference that they did, Kamaru approached Colby Covington backstage, and Colby had nothing to say. To say until the cameras were on. So Colby Covington has painted himself into a corner. There's a lot of people with very, very bad intentions wanting to get their hands on him. So I hope that RDA finishes this off. He has a big slice of humble pie and apologizes for what he's done. If he wins this fight, I think it's going to be some dark days in the UFC, and it's already dusk. All right, main event of the evening. Robert Whittaker, the champion, finally off of his near-death experience with staph infection.
Yep.
Versus Yoel, the Soldier of God, Romero.
Don't forget Jesus.
Don't forget Jesus. This is a rematch.
I love you, Bane.
It's a rematch, but I expect very different outcomes here.
All right.
I think you've got a much more mature, just athletics still, but just fight sense. I think Romero's grown a lot since their last matchup, so it could be intriguing.
All right. Go ahead, John.
I just wanted to agree with Casey there. I think this is. I think I want to give Yoel the benefit of a doubt that he has learned from his mistakes from the first time around.
All right, let's make some flash fight picks. CM Punk versus Michael Jackson. Who you got, John?
I'm going CM Punk because I like wrestling.
All right, KC.
I'm going CM Punk just because he's got too much to lose.
I'm going with Michael Jackson because I can't wait next week to talk about how a man with no arms and no legs beat CM Punk.
Well, all right.
Noob Sabat, Megan Anderson versus the Preacher's Daughter. KC.
I'm going Holly Holm.
Holly Holm by high kick in the second round.
Ooh, I'm going to disagree and change mine to Megan Anderson because Megan's going to be expecting that high kick.
I'm inclined to go with Megan Anderson because she's a true featherweight. I think she's going to be a little bit too big for Holly. I think she'll win by decision. And we'll be setting up a Chris Cyborg Megan Anderson fight for the fall. All right. I don't know. I don't think I need to ask this question, but Rafael Dos Anjos versus Colby Covington. KC, who you got?
Colby Covington.
Look,
you said who I think's going to win. Like, it's not a desire. It's just who I think's going to win.
I'm going to tweet this out with a picture of you, and I'll be like, this guy, everyone.
Make sure you get it from my left side. That's my good side.
This guy picked Colby Covington.
John, to win.
Who you got?
Rafael Dos Anjos by Brazilian Pride in like the second round. He's coming for him, and he's going to have the power of all the caballeros in Brazil and in South America behind him, and he's going to focus that energy, and it's going into one solid punch in the chest, and Colby Covington will probably have a fatality there, and that's how I'm going for.
Fatality.
Exactly.
Well, all right. What about you, Ryan?
You know what? There is no way on this earth that I am picking Colby Covington. Look, I wouldn't pick Colby Covington to win this fight. I wouldn't pick him for dodgeball. There's nothing. I wouldn't even pick him in Red Rover. Colby Covington is not going to win this fight. If he does, I'm going to demand a recount because this is
again. You're going. This is why I can't take you to Vegas. You're going with feelings versus facts.
Oh man, I cannot do it. I cannot do it. All right, last one, John. Robert Whittaker versus Yoel, the Soldier of God, Romero.
Man, I'm gonna give it to the genetic freak, man. It's Yoel's time. He's going to maul him on the ground. There's going to be a lot of laying and praying, a few elbows. He may win by decision. He may actually win by knockout. Okay, and then he's going to dry hump Whittaker and give him a kiss and tell him, "I love you, man. I love you. I give you a kiss." And it's going to be awkward. It's going to be awfully awkward.
KC,
I'm going full Whittaker here.
Okay. I'm going Robert Whittaker. The thing is that if Yoel Romero actually makes weight, I think that he may suffer too much from the weight cut. So you're going to see a Yoel Romero that's not at 100%. I think you're going to see a Yoel Romero who's going to get gassed around the second round. I think he'll give up the third, fourth, and fifth. Robert Whitaker will probably beat him via strikes in the fourth round, because Yoel Romero will run out of gas. So if Yoel Romero doesn't win this fight in the first round, I got this squarely in the corner of Robert Whitaker. This is what happened last time. This is what will happen again. Robert Whitaker, and still the middleweight champion of the world. All right, that's it for our show. Thank you guys so much for helping me get through all of this content. We got 2 weeks worth of stuff done in one show. I got nothing else there.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
All right, we did. That's it. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan.
And I am at CST Ryan.
And
I'm at Keys to Victory, and that's Keys with a Keyes to Victory. I haven't put on the CST yet.
all right.
They won't let me.
No, don't worry about putting on the CST. I made KC do it, but he didn't want to do it either. That's why he doesn't even use that Twitter account.
Nope.
That's okay, man. You guys don't want me in the clubhouse, I guess. Yeah.
You can check out the website at www.combatsportstalk.com. You can also find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, and Instagram. I am at Combat Sports Talk. KC?
I'm at Push Pull Pray.
John?
Once again, at Keys to Victory.
There it is. We now have merchandise on Amazon. I'm actually working on a new shirt as we speak. I had a request. I had a request for, since we did and I'm actually wearing the Boom Rock Them catchphrase shirt right now. But I had a request for the Combat Sports Talk tagline. And so I'm trying to put a design together that is the hands up, chins tucked, and throw bombs. So we'll see what that looks like. And we've added a new section for live events. George Stallworth will be doing another live event for UFC 225. We're going to be talking to him about his recent win at a Muay Thai tournament here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And he's got another fight coming up, so we'll be talking to him about his tournament experience and the fight coming up here in about a couple of weeks. So, tune in for that as we cover the UFC 225 fights coming from Chicago, Illinois. Anything else to say, John, before we go?
Man, no, it was good. Let's pray that nothing crazy happens this weekend. That's all I'm waiting on.
All right, KC, have the last word.
Let's make the UFC great again.
Oh, my God.
There you have it. We'll catch you next week. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com. KC Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For KC Onyebuchi, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.